Hi there, so this is a follow-up to the previous video where we took a look at the Raspberry Pi that was made in Japan. So in this video what we'll do is we'll look into some of the minor differences that I've noticed in the time after the previous video where I looked at the components on the board and noticed some minor differences. But more importantly, there was a actual difference in the board revision number that is reported by proc CPU. So we'll take a look at that by actually SSHing into this unit and taking a look at the contents that it returns. So first of all, just take a look at some of the minor differences between these two boards. This is the made in UK version of the Raspberry Pi 3. You'll notice that there's a little notch in the middle of the micro USB port. And also for the HDMI port, you'll notice that there's the pins which make contact with the HDMI cable, and on the side facing in front of us we really don't see anything. It's just plain piece of plastic. On the made in Japan version of Raspberry Pi, if we take a look at the micro USB port, you'll see that there is no notch in the middle, and for the HDMI port you actually see a bunch of small, what appears to be like pins, but I guess they're not really not. So that's just a difference I've noticed in terms of the hardware. I guess additional differences I've noticed in terms of the hardware from the previous video. Now we'll actually take a look at the more interesting part, which is the hardware revision returned by looking at the proc CPU when we boot into the Raspberry Pi 3. So I'll go ahead and do that and take a look. So I went ahead and put the latest copy of Raspbian Jessie Lite into this micro SD card. So we'll boot the Raspberry Pi 3 made in Japan off of this SD card. Let's go ahead and put that in, like so. And as I've already mentioned, I'm just going to SSH into this Raspberry Pi 3 just because it's easier to get a screen capture of what I'm doing. Right, so I'll just go ahead and plug it, start this guy up, and I'm going to go over to my terminal and log into the Raspberry Pi 3. So I'm logged into the Raspberry Pi, and we can go ahead and take a look at the hardware revision information. So where I found this information was actually from the Embedded Linux Wiki, which happens to have this RPi hardware history page. Here you can get information about the historical information is about what kind of revisions of the Raspberry Pis actually existed. So they actually have information about prototypes. You probably might want to check it out if you're interested in these kind of things. So one of the tables that they have here shows a list of hardware revisions and how you can get that information by logging into the Raspberry Pi. So basically you can just type in this command, cat the proc cpuinfo, which gives you a lot of information about the CPU, about what cores there are, how many cores there are, what actual CPU it is, etc., etc. And part of it includes this revision information. So this revision information is summarized in the table here. So for the Raspberry Pi 3 Model B, apparently there is two revision types that are known at the moment. The one that is being manufactured by Sony and the one that is being manufactured by Mbest, which are A02082 and A22082 respectively. So we'll take a look at the hardware revision information that is returned by this made in Japan Raspberry Pi now. So this is going to get a little bit interesting. So we'll go into the terminal and cat proc cpuinfo, like this. So we get a bunch of things showing up. Shows us that this Raspberry Pi 3 has 4 ARM v7 cores. And at the very bottom we see the hardware, which is the BCM2709, and we also see the revision number. Interesting. A32082, which is not listed here. And just a little interesting tidbit I got from the Raspberry Pi forum. So one of the posters at the Raspberry Pi forum noticed that I've posted a video about this made in Japan Pi, and he talked about some of the details about the QR code, which is on the underside of this Raspberry Pi 3, and he noticed that this is something that I guess Sony manufactured Raspberry Pis have, and he took a look at these serial numbers and et cetera, et cetera. He knows quite a bit about these hardware revisions that are out there. And interestingly, the director of communications for Raspberry Pi, Liz, provided us with some additional information, and she mentions that this Raspberry Pi 3 is for the Japanese market only, and they're produced in a Sony factory that's cloned the production line from the Sony factory in Wales that makes the majority of Raspberry Pis. So apparently this is produced in a factory which is, I guess it's going to be similar to the Sony factory in Wales. So that probably corresponds to this A02082 revision code. However, we notice that the revision code returned by the Made in Japan Raspberry Pi 3 is A32082. So we can see that this is actually a new revision code that's out there. So I guess we found something new about these Raspberry Pis by looking at this. Alright, so that's about as much as I have for today. So if you found this video useful, please give it a like, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe to the channel. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you next time.